can digital detox do anything for your results in dating? The answer is yes. When we talk about digital detox, we talk about dopamine detox. Dopamine, as you might know, is a neurotransmitter, and it's one of those feel-good chemicals in our brain that everyone talks about. The problem with dopamine is that it's very easy to become addicted to it. Stuff like swiping on an app or getting likes on social media. All of those things give us a little dopamine rush. And that dopamine rush is like a little drug high. So you want it more and more. And the more you get it, the more you want it. It's never ending. So you might say, what's the big deal, Julian? Well, dopamine addiction makes our life miserable because nothing is exciting anymore. All we do is we live from dopamine rush to dopamine rush. Get more likes, meet more women, have more sex, play more video games, jerk off more, watch this porn, travel here, travel there. All we do is chase, chase, chase. We only chase the next high. That's why we keep watching porn, even though we know it might make it hard for us to be excited about a real woman. And it might even lead to sexual performance issues, like, not being able to get it up. You might know one of the classical examples of dopamine addiction these days. It's much easier to imagine it with an example that a lot of us can relate to these days. I'm talking about when you watch a movie. Do you just watch the movie, or do you feel the urge to grab your phone and do something next to it? We hardly can stand even the briefest amounts of boredom. That's why so many of us can't have an orgasm anymore without watching porn. That's why we binge watch TV shows and next to it grab our phones and play some games on our phones while we're watching. That's why it's incredibly hard, even when you have a one-on-one conversation with someone in real life, to actually pay attention to what they're saying, to be with them 100%. We are restless on the inside. We constantly are restless for more dopamine, for a new dopamine release. And as long as we're in that circle, it's incredibly hard to live a life with the social results that we want. Stuff like romance, love, friendship, sexuality, all of that requires human interaction. But if we're in our rabbit hole of having to get the next dopamine high all the time, it's so hard to actually connect with other human beings. Not because we don't know how it works, but we can't amass the energy. We can't amass the interest anymore. We're talking to someone and we know what a great question is for them. We know that awesome open-ended question that deepens the conversation, and we could talk on forever. That is not the problem. The problem is we don't want to ask the question. We don't even have the energy to ask the question. That is the real problem these days. And dopamine addiction is responsible for that. I myself am not innocent of it. It's incredibly hard for me, for example, to go to sleep in the evening. Not because I can't sleep, but because I don't want to go to sleep. Because I feel like I haven't enjoyed my day enough yet. So I want to watch another episode. I want to listen to another podcast. I want to play another game of chess. All these things are just dopamine highs. The responsible thing would be to say, hey, Julian, it's getting late. Go to bed, get some rest, wake up again refreshed in the morning, and attack the next day with full energy. But thanks to my dopamine addiction, my thought process is more like, don't feel like I have really enjoyed that day yet. Let's watch one more episode. Or, let's listen to a few more songs. Or let's smoke a cigarette. Or, hey, how about I watch some porn? Or any of that stuff. All we do is we want to have that next release. We don't want to end the day before we had that fulfilling rush or high. So we agree, I think, that dopamine addiction can have disastrous results for your life, especially your social and romantic life. So the question is, what can we do about it? Digital detox is the way to counteract all of this. I think it should be part of everyone's self-care routine these days, because it's so essential to counteract all these other influences that constantly push us in the direction of more. We need the next rush. So digital detox will make it easier for you to focus on another person and stay interested and have the energy to actually socialize with others and be curious about them. Digital detox will make it much easier to stay focused on whatever you want to pay attention to. Not just people, also, work, or if you have to study for something for school or university. It will also make it much easier to get aroused and to stay erect. It will make it easier to be interested in normal stuff again and not always just have to have this fast pace, next cut, watch this next, my favorite movie after, then I'll get my favorite meal. We constantly need extremes if we are on the dopamine addiction. And digital detox will make it a bit easier to get excited about the normal everyday stuff that we are surrounded by. Because life can't just be a never-ending sequence of high points. It is and it always will be a wave of highs and lows and in-betweens. And we have to deal with that. We can't just go through life and only have high points all the time. Because humans also have this annoying quality that makes them get used to whatever they're exposed to a lot very quickly. Even if it was possible to only have high point after high point after high point, then you would get used to it real quick and your highs wouldn't feel like highs anymore. They would just flatten out and feel average. So in order to be able to feel the highs of life, we have to feel the lows and have to feel the in-betweens, the boring days, the normal stuff, the not so exciting events. Digital detox will also make it much easier to be creative about what you want to do, about activities, doing fun things, having fun stuff to talk about. All these things are very hard when you're constantly just looking into a screen and get bombarded by the most interesting thing out there, but never have to come up with anything yourself. Same is true for talking, of course. If you don't know interesting stuff to talk about, who is gonna think that you're interesting or charismatic? What woman is gonna be attracted to you if all you do is watch stuff and then the only thing you can talk about is what you watched? Now the question is, what's a good way to practice digital detox? What's a good way to implement it in your life? I personally am not a big fan of extreme measures like going to a monastery for 2 months and, getting rid of all digital influences, having no phone, meditating 10 hours a day and whatever. I've seen a lot of these retreats and I even know some people who have went there and it's always the same story. You go there, you feel good for a while, it's really helpful for a while, but then you revert back to your old ways. And it was all totally useless and just a waste of money. So the only solutions that I really believe in are ones that are permanent. And so I think to make something permanent, it has to be very manageable. You can't have too much of it and it has to be somewhat fun. Otherwise, people are just not gonna do it. We have to be realistic, guys. We are humans and we are fucking lazy by nature. We don't want to do anything that feels uncomfortable all the time. Thus, what we need is something that feels alright and is not too much work. That's the only way to make someone do something over a long period of time. Sometimes, like with workout, for example, that can happen. It can feel shitty in the beginning, and the more you do it, the better it feels. Same is true for digital detox. It might be a little bit of a challenge in the beginning, but once you have gotten used to it, it's gonna increase the quality of your life in all these different aspects that we talked about. It's not just that you're gonna be better in conversation with women. It's also that you're gonna be happier in general. It's also that you're gonna have a much easier time to, be aroused and get rid of all these sexual performance issues. It's much easier to be excited to meet friends again. It's much easier to get out and just enjoy normal stuff like a beautiful day outside in the sun or a good meal. Remember, nothing that you only do once is very useful. So instead of telling you to reduce your screen time to 1 hour a day or whatever, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna give you ideas that lead to digital detox, that lead to getting rid of dopamine addiction, but that are not too hard to implement, that anyone can do. So just pick the ideas that you feel work best for you and your life and try those out first and get slowly into it. So one exercise I love and that I recommend to all our clients and that I do regularly myself is go out without a phone. Don't bring your phone at all. Just explore your neighborhood. A few blocks to each side. Just explore that without a phone. Go out there specifically just to be curious. What's there in my surroundings? Is there a new place that just opened? I've never noticed this bench. It's beautiful to sit here in the sun. Just walk around, look at all the tiny streets that you have never noticed. Try to figure out, in this neighborhood, so where do I have to walk to get back to my place? What's the fastest route? Oh, this corner over here looks nice. I could get a coffee at this place. Oh, here's a new bakery. There is so much to discover everywhere. And all these impressions from our surrounding are what gives us the ability to be creative in the end. To come up in a conversation and think about what excited us, what was interesting, what we explored. Maybe we saw something that was shitty. It doesn't have to be all positive, but we get things to talk about. We get things that our mind thinks is interesting. Otherwise, if we don't supply our mind with all these impressions, then guess what it's gonna long for? More screen stuff. That next episode, even though we're tired. That next movie that we've been looking forward to watching in the cinema with our friends, but now, because our brains telling us, oh, let's watch it now. It's a good idea to watch it at 2 a.m. at home from a pirated 480p stream. What are other digital detox ideas? Well, a biggie for me, especially in regards to online dating, was to get rid of all notifications. I feel so much better. I can't tell you how much better I feel ever since I've gotten rid of all notifications from all these quick messaging apps, from online dating apps, basically from any app where a person can directly message me. Everyone in my life that is very close to me, that's important to me, has my number, and they know that they can always call me in case of an emergency. So no message that I get on my phone is gonna be very important. I know that if it's something very important, then the people I love and that are close to me are gonna call me, and otherwise it's not that urgent that I need to be notified of it with a sound and some sort of flashing of my screen and the notification banner there, that I have to respond to that right away. So I know that I'm not gonna miss anything urgent that way, and it gives me so much peace of mind. I had times in my life where I had a constant inner stress. I always had a little bit of a bad conscience because I hadn't replied to that person, and there was another notification, and there was this huge red icon with a high number that told me how many unread emails I had and unread messages and all that stuff. At the end of the day, it's not important. It's really not that important. Another great idea that a friend told me about, and that I've done ever since, and it feels great, is to not have your phone in the room where you're sleeping. Or if you really need the alarm, and if you don't want to buy a cheap alarm clock to do that, just put it away as far as you can. The reason for that is how many of us, before we go to bed, grab our phone, do some stuff, read some news, whatever. Same in the morning. We wake up, first thing is we grab our phone, look at the notifications, look at what's up in the world, listen to music, whatever it is. We do stuff on our phone, on a screen, immediately. By putting the phone in a different room or putting it so far away that you have to get up from your bed to reach it, you at least put another barrier in there. You force yourself to get up before you grab your phone. And you force yourself to not make grabbing your phone the first thing you do in the morning. Another great exercise that I personally really enjoy doing, that I know is hell for so many people these days, is finding a restaurant or finding a movie or finding whatever activity where you usually look up reviews, and do it without. Just try to find that place by talking to people. Talk to people, ask them for movie recommendations. Talk to people, ask them, hey, what's your favorite restaurant in this area here? Or hey, do you have a good recommendation for a Thai place? By talking to people, you're gonna feel much more connected again. And if you really have to, go to the place, look at it with your own eyes. If you think it looks good and you're about to go in, look up the reviews, confirm that it is up to your snobbish 4.5 or higher standards. And if it is, go in. But even better if you can do it without any looking up reviews. And there's a nice side effect of that exercise. You're gonna talk to a ton of people. So that's not just practice, but also opportunity again to, meet someone who is gonna become a romantic partner or a friend in the future. That would never happen if you just look up the best place, make a reservation online, and then just go there without talking to anyone. Another tip relates to masturbation. So many of us always use porn when masturbating. A great exercise for digital detox, and one of the best things you can do for your mental health in general, is Start masturbating without porn. Use your imagination. Picture yourself in a situation that is like porn, but don't watch it, but imagine it. Make your brain try a little harder. Make it more about yourself. Put yourself in this awesome situation. It's kind of like a visualization exercise with you being the hero. You can jerk off as much as you like, but do it with your own imagination. Challenge yourself to not watch porn for jerking off. It's gonna cause so many problems. You know how many people we work with that tell us they can't come anymore without porn? Or they can't get aroused anymore without picturing some weird situation while they're in bed with another attractive woman. Real life just doesn't do it for so many of us anymore. And we need to make sure to counter that. Because how miserable is a life where we feel like we can't pleasure another person, or where we feel like even though we have sex and it's supposed to be awesome, we can't enjoy it because we're not in the moment. We can't be with that other person because we can't even focus on anything but that weird situation we need to imagine in our mind so we can get hard. Be better than that. Try to do it without porn. Here's another tip for you. When you go to a restaurant with a friend and let's say they go to the restroom, what do you do immediately? In all likelihood, and from all the people I see around me, they all grab their phones and look up some stuff on their phones. Hey, I'm not innocent of that, okay? I do this stuff myself all the time. But it's on my mind and I'm mindful that it's bad. So I'm pushing myself more and more now to, when there is a wait of some sort, to not immediately grab my phone and look at my phone, but rather look around me, see what's going on, and try to connect with some curiosity of what's going on around me. Much better than to grab your phone immediately. And isn't it sad that we don't even know what to do for a minute or two, or we feel so uncomfortable with our phones without some sort of distraction that we have to take it out immediately? These days, digital detox and dopamine detox should be part of everyone's self-care and mental hygiene routine. If you don't have that routine, then that's another thing you should build immediately, because so many of us feel shitty these days. So many of us are struggling with depression and loneliness and a ton of other mental health issues. If we don't just want to use pills, if we don't just want to ask ourselves why life is pointless and shitty, let's get up. Let's do something about it, right? And what you can do, what's immediately gonna help, and it can't hurt you. It can only help your life. It can only make your life better. It can only get you closer to the results you want. And that is digital detox. So make sure you try it out. Make sure you give any of these tips that I had a try. I think pretty much every phone now has some sort of setting of functionality where you can easily look up your screen time. Make it a challenge. Make it a 30-day challenge to reduce your screen time to 30% less than you had the month before. Enjoy that. Get enjoyment out of looking at your screen less. Get pleasure from finding directions without looking them up in your phone. Get pleasure from being able to identify a great restaurant or a great cafe or a great bar or whatever it is by just looking at it, by figuring it out with your brain, by talking to other people, by looking at the menu physically, by going there, by seeing what the vibe is. That's what's gonna make life interesting. That's what's gonna get you to a new level. That's what's gonna get you more dates and better results with women. But you have to be the person to start it. You have to start it now. And you have to make it a habit that you don't break. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, we are always beyond grateful if you give us a like and a subscribe. Have a good one.